And you're positive that she's the same person?
There's no doubt about it. And this one showing the scars was given to me at the clinic that sent her away disfigured forever.
Yes. The photographs are of the same girl, I agree. But I was referring to the person you met tonight on the waterfront. You don't think that
No, Commissioner. It was she in front of me.
But in the dark, with the fog and all.
But I know her. I couldn't possibly be mistaken.
There's no Jeanette Morino listed with the Bureau of Missing Persons.
But she's not a missing person. She's here. I've seen her. She has no relatives in town, even if she'd been kidnapped.
Listen, I want to believe you. I remember the auto accident from which Jeanette Morino barely escaped with her life. But this story of a recovery is impossible.
Yet she's cured, perfectly normal. It's her same face.
But who would be likely to hide such a miracle as that?
Whoever it was who tried to kill me.
For what reason?
An hour ago in Rue Dormay, Police Sergeant Brundell recovered a stolen automobile. This is the license number.
You want to rejuvenate me? How long has it been since I bothered about stolen cars?
The same automobile, a short time before, just about the same moment the assault occurred, was stopped for speeding on the Esplanade, where it passes the waterfront, by Patrolman Cholin. Inside, as well as the driver, there was an unconscious woman and a doctor taking her to the hospital.
You see?
Check the hospitals?
I've already telephoned. There's no record of her.
Maybe he was taking her to a private clinic. The name of the doctor?
Well, Cholin didn't bother to ask him that under the circumstances. It could have been a doctor who commandeered the first automobile he found.
Or a clever criminal who would say anything to avoid identifying either himself or the woman.
Jeanette.
Perhaps. But there happens to be a real doctor who might give us some information about this miraculous recovery.
Will you let me come with you?
Yes, but on one condition, however, that... No, I'll tell you in the car. Ah, good evening, Professor Levin. Please excuse us if we're... Oh, this is Police Sergeant Durand. Marais, I think you already know. Excuse the interruption if we're disturbing you at this hour, but passing in front of your villa, I thought, why don't I leave it up to you, Professor Levin, to clarify a scientific problem we had? You were so extremely kind to me when we met each other that time before, in those unfortunate circumstances.
Oh, yes. My poor assistant had passed away. Monique Riviere. You may go, Sasha.
Sasha. He's a strange one.
He's my factotum. Cares for the garden more than anything.
Mm-hmm. A mute. The soul of fidelity, an expert with flowers. The classic one to suspect in a mystery story, if there were anything to suspect him of.
May I offer you a drink, Inspector?
Yes. Let's be comfortable. We must try to make it easy for Professor Levin to forget that we're policemen. Did you notice these bottles? He got them as a souvenir of Hiroshima. Interesting, aren't they, Durand? You don't have to blow smoke under my nose.
Excuse me.
Here you are.
Thank you.
If you please. Now then, Inspector.
I'll make it brief. Look here, Professor. Have you been following in Éclairçois all that Tommy rot about Sadok, the monster?
Not closely. Tommy rot is the right word for it. Cheap, sensational journalism. Chief?
All right, go out and smoke. If you don't mind, that is.
But I still don't comprehend.
The time before, I asked you a question which you were kind enough to say was intelligent. About the psychological reaction of the victims of an atomic explosion. Well, then, perhaps my own supposition will be an absurd one. But think of the ships that arrive here from Japan. And this, Sadok. Is it possible that he's one of those...
I see. You've been impressed by the recurring factor in these cases of the wound from the throat to the sternum. The obsession of a vindictive-minded man who's been poisoned or disfigured forever by atomic radiation. One might even say A vampire of the atom age who wants to recover.
Exactly. What do you say?
The hypothesis is melodramatic, but not to be excluded.
You just said the hypothesis is melodramatic, but the fact that you don't exclude it altogether puts me, how shall I say, more at peace with my own conscience. We mustn't let our feet get too far off the ground.
Chief, the photographs?
Ah, right. Excuse me, I had another purpose in coming here to see you. Look here. Examine these two photos. Do you believe that a woman reduced to such a state as this might recover altogether? What I mean is without any scar, without a trace.
I should say not. This state of disfiguration is permanent.
Nevertheless, Professor,
Let me do the talking, Durand. Nevertheless, there is someone who swears that he's seen this woman, the way she was.
That's impossible.
And if there did exist a cure, I don't know, a process we never heard of.
Any man who had discovered one would be a celebrity.
Mm-hmm.
And I assure you I'd be the first to envy him.
I imagine so. All right, then. This other photo, which was submitted to me as proof of her actual recovery, must have been taken at some time prior to her accident.
Pity. The signature was not dated.
Ah, right. It wasn't. And besides, even if it had been, it could easily have been faked.
Professor, I'm ready to swear that these...
Durand! We've been disturbing you long enough. We're most grateful, Professor.
I'll accompany you.
Murray! We're leaving. Durand! Professor, you must feel rather lonely here. Such a big house. Don't you have a new assistant?
You think it's so simple to find one? And moreover, I'm enjoying a period of repose right now. I merely study for relaxation.
You know, Professor, what I envy you is your gardener, Sasha.
Really? A bit difficult to believe that.
No, it's just that I'm a flower gardener on my days off. Imagine, Inspector, he even works at night. Maybe he's expecting a frost.
I know what you mean. You're dying to have a look inside that greenhouse. But I don't think at this hour.
No, indeed. Sasha would be delighted to have you look in.
I'll wait for you in the car.
What for? Why don't you come too, Durand?
This way. This is Sasha's kingdom. There are his plants. There are his roses. Sasha, you're honored. These gentlemen have come to admire your beautiful greenhouse.
It's really beautiful, too.
Well, you ought to know.
Flowers. Nothing else of any interest. And Sasha is always busy with them. He doesn't even have time to read mystery stories.
Yes, and no wonder.
Well, good night, Professor. And excuse us again.
Sasha, accompany the gentleman to the gate.
Durand, aren't you coming?
Good night, Professor.
Good night, sir.
What is the purpose of this autopsy?
Now, Doctor, I've already arranged for the body to be exhumed, and I must ask you to proceed without any further argument.
Very well, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. Garage, I want my car at the door in 10 minutes.